This is Lauren.
This is Trey.
And this
is the Partnership Podcast. Hi, welcome to the Partnership Podcast, where my wife looks stunning and I look like I am searching for a job online. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
I'm going to get my act. I'm going to turn it around.
You can turn it around? Your act? What act is this?
What's going on today?
Oh, babe? I see. Like you're going to stop. You're going to get a job
I'm
today.
not going to smoke weed and play video games today. Today I'm really going to pound the pavement.
I like this rumpled look. It's one of my favorites of yours.
Let's start over. Welcome to Partnership Podcast with Lauren and Trey.
We just did a first intro. Trey didn't like it. Now we're back again for another one. Good morning, babe.
What are we chopping up today, honey?
Darn it. I thought we had a topic. We prepare so much for this.
I think it was me apologizing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, It sounds like I wanted Trey to give some public apology for things gone wrong. Here's the dealio. Okay, so you have walked with us, gentle audience, on many glow ups, on many level ups in this year partnership. You've been with us since the OG days, truly. And we like to be really transparent on here that we have some really real talks in these chairs, but then we leave these chairs and we continue to have really real talks. We have a few amazing coaches in our lives too, who call us out and call us up, who give us some really beautiful things to think on, who sit with us. And on the episode where we talked about shadow boxing, we did a lot of sitting with the shadows that were showing up. But then we have, over the last few weeks, gotten to really sit with kind of breaking apart the different roles that each of us were playing in that space. And through the incredible Dr. Joli Hamilton, and through some good friends of mine, and through me sitting in and with this next season, we found a new discovery. We did. And as we had spent a lot of time talking about the deep wounding you felt in that Uber, and that, how we had left it off was Lauren's wrong. That was really wrong. And Lauren Lauren in future seasons needs to know what she wants so that Trey doesn't ever get criticized like that again, was kind of one of the things we caught off with. Because Lauren, the wife, never wants to hurt Trey, the husband, like that, truly. And so we were having a really hard time with that little point right there. You want to take it from there? Like what you think we've learned that kind of led us to apologizing in different ways and then also applauding me for something. Yeah.
So what you said cut me to my core, and also what you said was completely justified and true.
Which I had never heard that part until recently.
Yeah. Where it's like, I put it in my shoes, where it's like I was supposed to move the microphone around the room. I was supposed to do some things. And I dropped the ball on it. And so both things are true, that I dropped the ball and also that it really hurt. But it's like, in this partnership, we're allowed to make mistakes. So, yeah, I just came to the conclusion that if the role was reversed, it would have been hard for me. Mm. And so, yeah, what you said was surprising. What you said hurt. What you said was not using our verbiage that we have installed over the years, and also what you said was accurate. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to acknowledge that like, yeah, you're not crazy. And you weren't, honey, you don't look to pick fights.
No.
The shadow side comes out and we'll say certain things that are hurtful in our partnership. But it's okay. And also, yes, I don't want to say justifiable, but maybe it's not. What do I want to say? It was accurate.
Dr. Hamilton really helped us dissect the different roles that were at play that night. And once you and I were both able to look at the role of number two, which is what Trey numbered himself that evening, right? The role that he put in. We were all able to sit there and say, but she told us, she said, an aptly placed, well-timed criticism is sometimes very effective and very necessary. And for a person who is working that night and she has a number two, for her to say, I feel that there is some lack of self-awareness and I do not feel supported in the way that we had agreed, is not wrong.
No.
And it was so healing for both of you to say that, because what was getting planted in my body was that was wrong, that I don't get to say, I need this, this, and this. Felt like you're asking too much, right? Here we give you all these good things and now you want more, right? The message it was sending to my body was, you don't get to criticize Trey. He's perfect, right? Like, you don't get to do that. And it wasn't Trey that I was criticizing. It was a role. It was, and it was this, and you said it so well, right? If the roles had been reversed, you would have been like, wait a second. No, thank you. Like, no. And in the same way that anyone who has employed someone for the evening should get to. And, we really got to sit with that of, if I had hired a day player to be that role, you and I instead would have been going back in the Uber, and I might have had a criticism like, oh, in the future, I'm going to let number two know that this, and this. And you would have been like 100%, babe, way to be thinking on your feet. But since it was my husband, my beloved, the man I treasure most in the world, in that role, it got really tricky. Because who I hurt was my husband, who I was meaning to make a statement of, criticism doesn't feel right in my body because I'm really not critical, but we will use that word. I will lean in to, in the way that a NASCAR driver would criticize one of the people in the pit, right? If they weren't on, that would be appropriate. What I was meaning to do is say, that didn't feel good, right? Something was off and it didn't feel good.
You said something about planning it in your head?
Planting it
Planting
in my body. It was like becoming a belief of
Who plants it? You said, shit, I don't know the exact thing you just said, but it like, where you can't, or you can't criticize, or you're wrong. Who puts it there?
I think our conversations were starting to.
Okay.
Because I don't want to hurt you like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to be hurt, but like. So
I was deciding I will never do that again.
Okay.
Do you know the way we were on a drive the other day and I interrupted you just because I was trying to find something on the map,
sure.
And I knew it hurt you. I try my darndest not to interrupt you.
Okay.
Because you are my beloved. And that feels like an interruption of thought. It feels hurtful. It is a behavior I can modify. I am an expert modifier, actually. I am expert at adapting because of so many things. It's a superpower sometimes. But I was deciding in my body prior to the few days leading up to our session with Dr. Hamilton that I was just never going to be able, not never going to be able, I was just never going to do that again. I was just going to keep those things to myself.
To be silent.
Yes, because I don't want to hurt you.
Yeah, because us being silent is never the answer.
No, I just was not going to, if you showed up in that way for me, I was just going to accept what I got. Which, believe me, I hear it in my mouth is coming out of my mouth. I'm like, that is not the answer. But
I get it.
I was like, I'm not doing that to him again.
I understand that because that's a solution that I go to where it's like, oh, just shut the fuck up. It's like, just stay quiet in certain situations.
Also, I go to, well, I just won't ask him to ever do that again.
Me too. Where I go to, I don't need to be there in the future if I'm going to cause hurt or drop the ball.
We're so funny and same. Yeah.
Because also I live my life where it's like, I don't want to hurt you.
The same.
Yeah.
Like so deeply. I think that's what's so precious about this whole thing is we're all like, like, I just don't want to hurt him again. Mm-hmm. I just really don't want to do that. You're too precious to me. Yeah, so I don't know about you. Maybe it was just mind-blowingly helpful to me. But for us to discuss the different roles of the space, the projections that are being put onto anyone in any given time, but in this situation, you and I. Then finding the role of vision carrier, that is what I want you to be, right? It feels so much juicier in my body, like so much juicier. And to be told and applauded that actually, Lauren, the wording self-aware was exactly right for a person in a number 2 position. Makes me feel a whole lot less crazy.
Who made you feel crazy? Was it me?
Yeah, because you said those words wounded me to my core. And I thought, but they're exactly the words that I wanted to use. Like that was exactly what I was feeling.
Go into that.
That I try to not be careless. Carelessness is not something I'd like. And so it felt as if I was being accused is a strong word, that it was being assumed that I just kind of like tossed those words out there. But they were the truest words that I was feeling in that moment. And I didn't mean them to be mean. I didn't mean them to be pointed. Not at all. Not at all. And it was like I stumbled into an explosive, like a very deep wound of yours that I did not intend to, which we can talk about that too, how we did some digging on that. Yeah, and so it felt like, okay, interesting. Good question, babe. In my first marriage, there was a lot of gaslighting and a lot of, that's not true. I didn't do that. And my memory is actually very accurate. When I was forced to do a psychological evaluation, they also did an IQ test on me. And the only thing that I'm kind of good at is memory. It's the only thing that's off the charts in an IQ test. Everything else, I'm mediocre smart. My memory and my recall and my retention of facts and experiences, insanely high. And so to have my lived experience called into question and said, basically, no, that's not true, felt reminiscent, I think, of that. It's not at all what you intended. Yeah, felt like that. And again, what was so funny is what I was trying to say in that moment still stands of, this is how I'm feeling. And I really want to take care of self. I don't need you to do much in this moment. We can figure this out later. We can sit with this later. But I just didn't know that I was going to hit such a deep source wound. And that was another really helpful thing that Dr. Hamilton was telling us, was she was so beautifully witnessing you on her little Zoom screen. And she said, Trey, if I may, it seems that what has been said here is not enough. And when I see that, usually it's a younger version of ourselves. Usually there's some story connected here. And she gave both of us work to do outside of session. And some of the work that she invited you to do was to get curious on the possible source wound of this car moment, of this assumption of character, of kind of some of this stuff. And you did a beautiful job on that one. And if you want to share, I'd love for us to share about that. But I think what I wanted to make sure that was known was it meant the world to me that you said, honey, that those words, self-awareness, were exactly correct for that role. And we were able to be like, wow, applaud Lauren over there. And then me deeply apologize for the way in which wife Lauren hurt husband Trey, because that is not something I'm interested in. And then us together collaboratively figure out how we want to avoid that in the future, how I can help heal that old wound as a wife, as a beloved now. And then, yeah, what roles in which in the future we want to go forward with. And closing them out. You know, we had already started to be in that space, but I hadn't pushed those two roles apart enough.
The no, that's not true. Like, is there something I need to take accountability for
No,
that?
no, it just felt like you were saying that. I mean, you did say that. So,
Did or didn't?
is there something you need to take accountability for? I think you already have. I think what you did in that moment when you told me those were the exact right words, Lauren,
That was 2
healed
weeks.
something in me.
Okay, that was 2 weeks, about 2 or 3 weeks after it actually
Mm-hmm.
happened. Was there a theme? Because I want to get clear on something. Was there a theme where I was like, no, that's not how it happened? Or was there, no, that's not true? Or you're making things up? Or
There was a theme of, I need you to apologize for that, Lauren. You hurt me, Lauren. That's the theme that's connected to.
that I feel like, yeah, there is accuracy on that, where what I felt in my body was, this is justified. So the way you feel is justified because of the way you acted. And what I wanted to get clear on, and what I really wanted to have a conversation, what I wanted you to take accountability for was, can both be true at the same time. Of, yes, you're justified in saying it, and yes, it cut me to my core. And then you did, where you go, I'm so sorry for hurting you the way I hurt you. Because when we were meeting with Dr. Joli, the energy that and this is in my mind, was, yeah, it was justified. And I felt like, well, suck it up. Or, well, this is what you get. That was mine to kind of work through.
Right, yeah.
Where I felt that in the room of, well, this is the consequence. And yeah, you clarified that for me. And then crazy making. This is the first time I've ever heard of crazy making, as far as like, I made you feel crazy. Is there anything, because this is brand new to me in this chair right now, because gaslighting's not okay, crazy making's not okay. Is there anything I need to take accountability for as far as crazy making?
You know, it's so interesting because our brains just might function a little differently.
You think?
I know you had no intent to do that. But it's like
intent does not negate harm.
I know. So there's no blame in my body. It's just so interesting. I've conditioned, like, I'm like, of course he didn't mean to do that. Like, I just know your character. So it's interesting to me. I think I just found it too. Like, which is one of the other beautiful things that we were talking about with Dr. Hamilton. And one of the things that I was like, I really want us to revisit this in the chairs, because I think there might be a tendency for folks to think that we wrap this conversation up in the chairs and then we never talk about it again. And some of our biggest level ups have been ongoing conversations. I mean, it's about to be a full month.
This was a deep wound.
Yeah.
For both of us.
And those wounds usually result in beautiful growth and expansion. And I think in lots of partnerships, people just want to be comfy. And I even remember telling you before going on into our coaching session last Thursday, I was like sick to my stomach. And you were like, what's going on? And I was like, I'm going to have to bring up stuff. And I think there's an assumption that we've resolved it. And it doesn't. I'm going to bring up something new.
No, it wasn't resolved.
No. And I was like, I'm going to have to make us uncomfy. And we both looked at each other and held each other and said, I love you. We don't prioritize comfort in this relationship. We prioritize growth. We prioritize understanding. We prioritize being seen and valued and heard. We prioritize love. And that does not mean comfortability. And boy, was it uncomfy. And I'm just, I am so thankful for that in our partnership. That we are there are certain seasons where we are malleable as fuck. We just keep moving and grooving and gathering insight and letting things sit in our body. But that can be confusing because new things pop up. And so the thing I had really asked for this last time in our post-counseling session chat was, can we be putty? Do I have permission to continue to realize things? So here's one of the realizations. Yeah, do you need to take accountability for anything? No, um, no, I think that there are always going to be things in partnership that we run into. I think you would have needed to take accountability. What's coming up in my body is if like you had refused to come into a coaching session together, but if you had refused to get curious with me, if you had refused, no, we all bump into things. No. I think we knew there was shadow boxing going on in that space. We knew that we had some stuff to get clear on. No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me? Any curious questions for me of how it felt similar, or does that make a lot of sense?
I'm still, as far as, because this is the first I've heard of like gaslighting and crazy making where it's on my end. So I'm just seeking clarification.
Yeah, does it make sense how it would feel that way in my body? Do you have any curious questions about it?
Yeah. Can you go into how it feels in your body? Like,
Yeah.
and then what were the things that brought you to that? Because I think this is the first time in our relationship where it's like crazy making and gaslighting. So I just want to go over it.
Yeah. It felt, I was saying this word self-aware, and you were saying that is not what this experience is.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's a negation of my felt sense.
Okay.
So that's all.
Is there any, because when you said that, it was about me being tipsy.
It was the overall self-aware. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Because I had to, okay.
Yeah.
Because I had to find all that out.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And
right.
we had to,
is there more? Is there more? Is there more? And then it kind of slowly came out once we got back to our hotel room. Okay. All right. Okay.
It's not what you do, honey. That is not, you don't do that.
Do what?
Gaslight me or make me feel crazy.
Okay.
You do not do that. It was a felt sense. Remember how Dr. Hamilton was helping us discover there must be a source wound in your body?
Sure.
Okay. We all have source wounds. Okay. No, that was not your intent. If you had continued to push in and been like, I was incredibly aware all night long and I never failed on no, I was there, right? Like if you had done that, we'd have some words, but that's not what you've done. That's not you. Okay. You are not that. You are not. And what was interesting, right, is the adaptive patterns I went to. My adaptive patterns are insane. They're like, oh, I just need to uplift Trey and figure out Trey. I had never gone to. I know that you felt in that coaching session that it was a lot like Lauren needs to stand strong. But what's fascinating is that Lauren had not been strong in her mind up until then. Like I had been in self-deprecation. Why would I ever do this to my beloved? I am a horrible person. Yeah. So wild.
You're allowed to criticize me.
Which I think this is probably the first time a man has ever said that to me. Yeah. Which is very healing. Very healing.
You're allowed to get angry. I know you're working on it.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. You're allowed to do that.
Yeah. And I know it's got to be uncomfy from the other side, too, to be with a lady who's growing.
Am I allowed to ask questions or give pushback or go like, what the fuck? Or where the fuck does this come from? Am I allowed to do those things?
Yeah, I think so. And then we can put into play all of our resiliency check-ins and blah, 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 right? The tools that we were trying to utilize. Yeah. We weren't very well resourced either.
Yeah, and a lot of this is not rational, right? On both of our sides.
No, relationships aren't rational,
and then,
my friends.
And then the shadow.
Yeah.
Like where we go to in unhealth is another way of saying shadow.
Right. There's so many different phrases. Same thing. Mm-hmm.
Guys, if you're listening to this, I'm not literally talking about a shadow. This is not some Peter Pan shit. It's where we go to in unhealth. Where I go to in unhealth is I have to do it all by myself, and I'm just the help. And what else? Yeah, I go to anger pretty quickly. I go to short fuse pretty quickly.
Shame, defensiveness.
Yeah, shame, defensiveness, 100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then both things can be true, where you were highly accurate and it was highly painful. We both kind of live our lives to not hurt each other. And then when we do it, it's like, oh, boy. Yeah. Yeah, because I don't want to, like, if I gaslight you and if I make you to feel crazy, you should leave me.
Yes, I'm aware.
You should absolutely leave me. And then when I am not accountable or don't want to listen to any of those things, you should also leave me. Yeah. Because you got to go find somebody that's going to treat you better. And same, two-way street.
Two-way street.
Because I won't tolerate it.
No.
Yeah. Make sure and like and subscribe.
We talk about such happy things on this podcast. This is why we wanted to do the podcast. Partnership is not easy, and partnership is a choice. A thing we kept saying to one another, and we'll wrap it up here. We'll do a part 2. So come back. We're double batching today. Is that we choose one another and we choose each other's nervous systems. We choose each other's stories. And what I'd love to revisit in the next one is a story, a really old story that we found in bed Sunday morning when you did that work, because that was fucking beautiful. And when I say that we are wounded in relationship and when we can heal in relationship, this is what I'm talking about, is that we do sometimes visit old wounds, but through the gift of partnership, we can fucking heal them. Thanks for coming to this episode of the Partnership Podcast. Be sure to check in next week to see part 2. If you want to work with me, go to sexedforyou.com/free consult. These are our opinions. Make sure to like and subscribe. You have a right to self-determination and informed decision making. Bye-bye.